Alright, today we'll be talking about multiplication. Multiplication is combining many groups of the same sizes and counting the result. Today our two groups are going to be 2,379 times 1,204. Instead of just trying to flat out combine these two huge numbers and count the result, we're going to take it piece by piece. Here we can vertically line up our two values and take it piece by piece and count up in small chunks by going by place. So here we have 9 times 4, and so we can see our 9 groups of 4, and we can either count it up, or if we've memorized our multiplication fact 9 times 4, we know that that equals 36. So we can just drop down our 6 and carry our 3 up here. So we put our 6 down here because it's 6 singles, so it goes in the singles place. And we carry our 3 up to here because it's rods or tens, and so it's in the tens place, and will be counted with these. So next we move on to 7 times 4, which if we've memorized our multiplication fact, we'll know is 28. So we can drop down our 8, but wait, no we can't, because first we have to add our 3. We do this because we have to count the remaining group. So it's 28 plus 3, which is equal to 31. And so we carry down a 1 instead and carry a 3 over here. So we're saying that this is 7 times 4, but it's really 70 times 4. And that's why it's dropped down to this tens place, because instead of it just being 28, it's really 280. And adding the 3, we're really adding 30, so it becomes 310. So next we have 3 times 4, or 3 groups of 4, which we should know as 12 if we've memorized our math facts. And so we would carry down our 12, but we can't just do that because remember we have to add the 3 from our previous problem. So instead of just being 12, it's going to be 15 because we are adding 12 plus 3. So we drop the 5 and carry the 1. And remember, this isn't just 15, it's really, and it isn't just 3 times 4, it's really 4 times 300. And so this 15 is really 1,500. And the 3 that we're adding, it's really 1,200, and the 3 that we're adding is really 300, so it becomes 1,500. And so we drop our 5 to the hundreds place and carry our 1 to be counted in the thousands place because it is 1,500. But we can easily just look at it as 15 because we are taking it chunk by chunk by simply going in places, so it is much more manageable. So next we have 4 times 2, which if we've memorized our facts, we'll know is 8. But we can't just drop down our 8 to here because we have to count this 1 from our last time. So it's really 8 plus 1, which is 9. And we drop that down into the thousands place because it's really 4 times 2,000, which is 8,000 plus another 1,000, which is really 9,000. So this 9 goes in the nines place because it is really 9,000. So next we're going to move on to our tens place and multiply everything by this 0. So first, before we do that, we have to put down a placeholder 0 because we are multiplying everything in the tens place, and so therefore all of our numbers are going to be moved up more because we have a 0 appended at the end. Luckily for us, multiplying by 0 is super simple because the answer will always be 0 because you have 0 groups of that number. So 0 times 9 is going to be 0 because you have 0 groups of 9. Same with 7, you have 0 groups of 7, and 0 groups of 3, and 0 groups of 2. So now we're all ready to move on to our next problem. So now we move on to 2 times 9, which is really 200 times 9. So we need to add placeholders to represent that we're multiplying in the hundreds place. So this time we add 2 zeros because we are multiplying in the hundreds place. Now we can move on and multiply 2 by 9. So if we've memorized our multiplication facts, we'll know that 2 times 9 is equal to 18. So we're going to drop down an 8 here and carry a 1. So when we multiply our 2 times 7, we'll have to add the 1 over here. So we drop the 8 down into the hundreds place because remember we're really multiplying our 9 by 200. And so that our answer is really 1,800. So our 8 goes in the hundreds place. So next we're going to multiply 2 times 7. And again, if we've memorized our multiplication facts, we'll know that 2 times 7 is 14. And remember, we have to add our 1 from last time. So it's really 14 plus 1, which is 15. And so we can drop our 5 down here and carry our 1 over here. Our 5 goes in the thousands place because we are multiplying 200 times 70, which is equal to 14,000, and we're adding another 1,000, which makes it equal to 15,000. So our 5 is in our thousands place, so that's why we place our 5 here to represent the thousands place, and carry the 1 up, so when we multiply our 2 times 3, we can add it to be in the 10,000s place, because it's really 200 times 300. So now we have 2 times 3, which if we memorize our multiplication facts, we'll know is 6. But remember, we have to add our 1, and so it's really 7. We drop our 7 down to the 10,000s place because it's really 200 times 300, which is equal to 60,000. But remember, we're adding another 10,000, and so it's really 70,000. So our 7 goes in the tens thousands place. These are big numbers, so thank goodness we're taking it step by step by going in places. So next we have 2 times 2, which if we memorize our multiplication facts, we'll know is equal to 4. So we can drop that down right here. And we drop that in the 100,000s place. Whew, big number, because it's really 200 times 2,000, which is equal to 400,000. So the 4 goes in the 400,000s place. Thank goodness we don't have to worry about all those zeros all the time. Last place to multiply with. So now we're going to move on to our 1,000, or simply our 1. So because we're multiplying in the thousands place, we have to add our placeholders. And this time there's going to be 3 because we are in the thousands place. So now we can multiply 1 times 9, which we know is equal to 9 if we've memorized our multiplication facts. And so we can simply just drop our 9 right here because it is really 1 times, which is really 1,000 times 9, which is equal to 9,000, and that is why the 9 is in the thousands place, represented by our 3 placeholders. Next we move on to our 1 times 7, which is really 1 times 70. Well, not just 1 times 70, it's really 1,000 times 70, which is 70,000. And so we drop our 7 in the 10,000s place because it is 70,000. Next we move on to our 1 times 3, and we can simply just drop our 3 down into the 100,000s place because it is 1,000 times 300. And finally, we have our 1 times 2, or our 1,000 times 2,000, and we can drop our 2 down into the 100,000s place or to our millions place, actually, because it is 1,000 times 2,000. So now we've gone through all of our places, taking it chunk by chunk, and adding remaining groups to get all this jumble of numbers. But what's our final answer? What we have to do now is we have to add all of these numbers to get our final result. We are adding because we are counting remaining groups to get our final result. And this has been helpful because instead of taking our big old group of 2,379 and just straight up multiplying it by 1,204, we have been able to take it step by step to get all these little numbers to finally add them all up together to get our big final number. So let's do it. Let's go down and add the line. So we have 6 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0, which is simply 6. Then we have our 1 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0, which is simply 1. And then we have our 5 plus 8, which is going to be 13. So we drop our 3 into this place and carry the 1. And then we have our 1 plus 9 plus 5 plus 9, which is equal to 24. So we just drop down our 4 and carry our 2 to add with our 7 and 7, which will be equal to 16. We drop down the 6, carry the 1, and we have our 1 plus 4 plus 3, which is going to be equal to 8. And finally, our 2, drop down, and we get our final answer. And our final answer is 2,864,316. We know this because we combined many groups of the same sizes and counted the result. We started with our ones place, our 4 and our 9, and we carried it down and continued with our 4 throughout all of these with our places. Then we moved on to 0, 2, and 1 and resulted in all of these different numbers. Then we counted the result, and that is how we got our final answer of 2,864,316. Much easier than just going and multiplying 2,379 and 1,204 off the top of our head. We could easily do it by taking it place by place and chunk by chunk and counting up in small groups.